Born in Westmoreland County, Virginia, George Washington grew up on his family's plantation. An independent leader, Washington's political leanings aligned closely with the Proto-Federalists, despite never officially joining a party. His military service in the Virginia militia sparked his political career, leading to a key role in the colonial resistance against British rule. As the commander of the Continental Army, Washington was pivotal in winning the American Revolutionary War, and later, as the first president, set the foundations of the U.S. government. His farewell address left a lasting legacy, warning against foreign alliances and political divisions. Beyond politics, Washington was a successful distiller and innovative farmer at Mount Vernon, where he pioneered crop rotation and advanced agricultural practices. George Washington, a true pioneer whose vision and values helped shape a nation. John Adams, a foundational figure in American history. Born in Braintree, Massachusetts, John Adams was raised on a family farm and emerged as a champion for a strong national government through his affiliation with the Federalist Party. His political career was sparked by his advocacy for colonial independence as a lawyer during the Stamp Act crisis. Adams' presidency is particularly noted for exemplifying a peaceful transition of power, gracefully ceding the presidency to Thomas Jefferson, marking the first peaceful handover from one party to another. His tenure, however, faced trials such as the Quasi-War with France and the controversial Alien and Sedition Acts, stirring debates on civil liberties that resonate to this day. A remarkable yet often overlooked detail of his presidency, John Adams was the very first president to reside in the White House. Entering the still unfinished residence in November 1800, he expressed hopes to his wife, Abigail, that it would be a place of happiness for future presidents. John Adams, a president of firsts and a steadfast leader in the early chapters of the United States. Thomas Jefferson, a multifaceted leader and visionary. Thomas Jefferson, born on a Virginia plantation, was deeply influenced by his studies at the College of William and Mary, shaping his political philosophy. As a fervent member of the Democratic-Republican Party, he championed states' rights and a lean federal government. Jefferson's intellectual prowess led him to draft the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson oversaw the Louisiana Purchase during his presidency, dramatically expanding the United States. He also initiated the Lewis and Clark expedition, unlocking the mysteries of the vast Western territories. Amidst the Napoleonic Wars, Jefferson strived to keep America neutral, safeguarding the nation's burgeoning interests. Beyond politics, Jefferson's interests spanned archaeology, paleontology, and linguistics, reflected in his vast library of over 6,000 books, which became a cornerstone for the Library of Congress. Notably, he introduced macaroni and cheese to America, a dish he favored from Europe. Thomas Jefferson, statesman, scholar, and founding father. James Madison, a pivotal figure in American history. Born in Virginia, James Madison was shaped by his time at the College of New Jersey, now Princeton University, where he began his deep dive into politics. As a leading member of the Democratic-Republican Party, he embraced and helped shape Jeffersonian democracy. He is often remembered for his leadership during the War of 1812, facing the British invasion of Washington, D.C., with unmatched resilience. His strategic foresight during these turbulent times left a lasting mark on the nation. Beyond his presidency, Madison's influence as the father of the Constitution is undeniable. His extensive work on the Federalist Papers and his crucial role in drafting the Constitution have cemented his legacy as a key architect of American governance. Despite his modest stature, standing only 5 feet 4 inches tall and never weighing more than 100 pounds, Madison's intellectual prowess and political skills commanded respect. His ability to overcome a speech impediment further highlights his remarkable capability. James Madison, a testament to the power of intellect over physical limitations and a lasting beacon of democratic principles. James Monroe, a dedicated patriot and statesman. James Monroe's journey began in Westmoreland County, Virginia, on his family's plantation. His mentorship under Thomas Jefferson and his experiences as a soldier in the Continental Army profoundly shaped his political career. Monroe's rise in politics was marked by roles as a senator and diplomat before ascending to the presidency. Monroe's presidency is heralded for the Monroe Doctrine, an influential policy declaring U.S. opposition to European interference in the Americas. This period, known as the Era of Good Feelings, reflected a time of national unity and a shared sense of purpose following the War of 1812. Monroe also holds the distinction of being the last founding father to serve as president. His commitment to the nation was evident from his youth, notably during the Battle of Trenton, where he suffered a near-fatal injury. His death on July 4, 1831, marked him as the third president to die on Independence Day along with James Adams and Thomas Jefferson, further intertwining his legacy with the nation's history. James Monroe, a figure of resilience and unity, leaving a profound impact on the fabric of American history. John Quincy Adams, a visionary leader and diplomat. Born into a politically active family in Braintree, Massachusetts, John Quincy Adams was immersed in politics from an early age. Accompanying his father, John Adams, on European diplomatic missions, he cultivated a deep understanding of international relations and governance. As president, Adams was a fervent advocate for federal investment in the arts and sciences, proposing the establishment of a national university and the funding of scientific expeditions. His tenure was marred by the infamous corrupt bargain allegations, where he was accused of securing the presidency through a deal with Henry Clay during the 1824 election. Known for his morning skinny-dipping swims in the Potomac River, Adams's unique routines highlighted his robust character. A gifted linguist fluent in several languages, he was also a progressive thinker, advocating for educational reform and abolitionism, pushing the boundaries of the societal norms of his time. John Quincy Adams, a man of intellect and integrity, whose legacy of leadership and advocacy endures. Andrew Jackson, a man of the people and a commander in controversy. Born in the Waxhaws region on the Carolinas border, Andrew Jackson was a child of the frontier, whose leadership forged the early Democratic Party. His rise to national prominence began as a military hero in the War of 1812, laying the foundation for his political journey. Jackson's presidency is remembered for its vigorous style and populist decisions. Notably, he signed the Indian Removal Act, leading to the tragic Trail of Tears, a decision that shadows his legacy. He also dismantled the Second Bank of the United States, which he criticized as an elitist institution, marking a shift toward more democratic engagement for the common man. Jackson's life was filled with personal eccentricities, including his infamous pet parrot, Pole, who was ejected from Jackson's funeral for swearing. Known for his fiery temper, he was involved in several duels throughout his life, notably killing a man in a duel over a matter of honor, which also left him with a bullet lodged near his heart that he carried for many years. Andrew Jackson, a complex figure whose passionate leadership left an indelible mark on America. Martin Van Buren, the mastermind behind the Democratic Party and a president of firsts. Born in Kinderhook, New York, to a Dutch family, Martin Van Buren was the only U.S. president whose native language was not English. His early career as a lawyer in New York set the stage for his skilled political organizing, leading him to the national spotlight. Van Buren's presidency was challenged by the Panic of 1837, a severe financial crisis that struck only months into his term. Despite facing intense scrutiny for his economic policies and the continuation of the controversial Indian removal policies, he is credited with adept handling of foreign affairs, maintaining peace throughout his tenure. An interesting tidbit about Van Buren is his nickname Old Kinderhook, derived from his hometown. This nickname is famously linked to the term okay, reflecting approval or correctness, contributing a lasting phrase to American English, although its origin remains a topic of historical debate. He was the first president to have not been born a British subject, a president of linguistic uniqueness and political legacy. William Henry Harrison, an American military hero turned president. Born into Virginia's early aristocracy, William Henry Harrison's life was shaped by his military and political careers. A key member of the Whig Party, he championed economic protectionism and modernization. His military prowess, highlighted by his role in the Battle of Tippecanoe, catapulted him into the national spotlight. Harrison's presidency, however, is remembered primarily for its tragic brevity. He served the shortest term in U.S. presidential history, just 31 days. His tenure ended shortly after delivering the longest inaugural address on record, standing in harsh cold without adequate protection, which tragically led to his death from pneumonia. Beyond his presidency, Harrison was the grandfather of Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd President of the United States, linking two generations of presidential leadership. His 1840 campaign cleverly used log cabin and hard cider symbols to craft an image of him as a man of the people, despite his elite upbringing, forever changing American political campaigning. William Henry Harrison, a figure of American lore, whose legacy is as enduring as it is ephemeral. John Tyler, a man of contradictions and firsts. Originating from a prominent Virginian family, John Tyler initially engaged in politics under the Democratic-Republican banner, only to switch to the Whig Party due to disputes with Andrew Jackson. Despite this, Tyler's heart aligned more with democratic principles, especially his advocacy for states' rights, reflecting his Jeffersonian belief in a limited federal government. Tyler's unexpected rise from vice president to president, after the death of William Henry Harrison, marked him as the first to undergo such a transition. His presidency is noted for his staunch opposition to his own party's economic policies, including several vetoes against the establishment of a new national bank, actions that ultimately led to his ousting from the Whig Party. Tyler's tenure also saw the significant annexation of Texas, adding a vast new territory to the Union. His personal life was equally notable, fathering 15 children, the most of any U.S. president. His descendants continue to spark interest, with 2 grandchildren still alive in the early 2020s. Tyler also survived an assassination attempt, a near-fatal moment when both pistols of an assailant misfired, an event that many deemed miraculous. John Tyler, a president remembered for his pivotal role in expanding America and his extraordinary personal and political life. James K. Polk, a leader whose vision profoundly shaped the United States. Born in North Carolina and raised on a Tennessee farm, James K. Polk emerged as a staunch Democrat under the influence of Andrew Jackson. His political ascent, from the Tennessee legislature to Speaker of the House and then governor, was fueled by his fervent belief in Jacksonian democracy and a passionate drive for expansionism. Polk's presidency is chiefly celebrated for dramatically extending America's borders. He secured the Oregon Territory through diplomacy with Britain and significantly expanded the nation's size through the Mexican-American War, adding territories that now include states like California and Arizona. True to his word, Polk served just a single term, dedicating his presidency to fulfilling his expansionist agenda. A lesser-known aspect of Polk's life is his enduring a surgery at 17 to remove bladder stones without anesthesia, a testament to his resilience. His relentless work ethic is often noted by historians as a contributing factor to his poor health and premature death shortly after his presidency. A president of profound impact and enduring legacy, his ambitions realized in the vast landscapes of the modern United States. Zachary Taylor, a military hero who became an unexpected president. Born in Virginia and raised on the Kentucky frontier, Zachary Taylor was a career soldier whose battlefield valor during the Mexican-American War catapulted him into the national spotlight. His military reputation as old, rough, and ready resonated with the public, paving his way to the presidency under the Whig Party banner, despite his scant political interest. Taylor's brief presidency is noted for his strong stance on preserving the Union amidst rising tensions over slavery. He advocated fiercely for California's admission as a free state and stood against the expansion of slavery into new territories, shaping crucial pre-Civil War politics. Taylor's presidency ended abruptly when he fell ill after consuming raw fruit and iced milk during a 4th of July celebration, dying just 5 days later. His death sparked rumors of poisoning, though later analyses suggest acute gastroenteritis was the likely cause. Known for his unpretentious style, Taylor often eschewed formal attire at official functions, favoring simplicity over pomp. Millard Fillmore, a president born from humble beginnings who navigated complex times. His story starts in a log cabin in New York's Finger Lakes, where he rose from poverty to political prominence. Initially a member of the anti-Masonic Party, Fillmore's career evolved as he joined the Whigs, driven by a desire to address economic and educational reforms in the New York State Assembly. His presidency is most noted for the Compromise of 1850, a series of bills aimed at quelling the mounting tensions between North and South. Although this compromise, which included the contentious Fugitive Slave Act, delayed the Civil War, it also significantly tarnished his popularity and fractured his party. Known for his moderate and cautious leadership, Fillmore was the first president to install running water, a central heating system in the White House, and to establish the White House Library. He marked the end of the Whig presidents, and despite continued involvement in politics, he never returned to the presidency. A leader of compromises in a divided era, remembered for his innovative contributions to the White House and his complex legacy. Franklin Pierce, a president marked by personal tragedy and political turmoil. Born into a politically vibrant family in Hillsborough, New Hampshire, he was steered into politics by his father, a Revolutionary War hero and governor. His journey through the New Hampshire legislature to the U.S. House and Senate was fueled by a charismatic persona and a staunch advocacy for states' rights, aligning him closely with the Democratic Party. His tenure in the White House is largely defined by his support of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. This legislation, which allowed territories to decide the legality of slavery through popular sovereignty, ignited violent conflicts in Kansas and drew fierce criticism, overshadowing his efforts to expand American interests abroad. Pierce's presidency also witnessed an unusual incident where he was arrested for accidentally running over a woman with his horse, though charges were later dismissed. Behind the political controversies, Pierce was a man grappling with profound personal losses, including the death of all 3 sons, the last of whom died tragically just before his inauguration, casting a long shadow over his and his wife's spirits. A president whose personal grief and controversial policies shape a complex legacy. A leader amidst America's growing divisions. Born in Cove Gap, Pennsylvania, James Buchanan climbed the political ladder from the Pennsylvania House of Representatives to become Secretary of State and Minister to the UK. His extensive political career, deeply rooted in the Democratic Party, was shaped by his legal expertise and early involvement in state politics. However, Buchanan's presidency is largely viewed with criticism. During his tenure, he witnessed the secession of 7 southern states, a precursor to the Civil War. His inability to effectively manage the rising tensions over slavery has placed him among the least effective U.S. presidents, as he watched the nation divide without taking decisive action to prevent the impending conflict. An intriguing aspect of Buchanan's life is that he remains the only bachelor president. His niece, Harriet Lane, served as First Lady. Buchanan's actions reflected his complex stance on slavery. He purchased slaves in Washington, D.C., only to free them in Pennsylvania, illustrating his conflicting attempts to mediate rather than directly challenge the divisive issue. A presidency intertwined with the nation's toughest challenges, leaving a legacy of caution in the face of crisis. Abraham Lincoln, from humble beginnings to becoming a defining figure in American history. Born in a Kentucky log cabin, Abraham Lincoln's frontier upbringing in Indiana and Illinois shaped a man of resilience and integrity. His career transitioned from the Whig Party to a key leadership role in the nascent Republican Party, driven by his staunch opposition to the spread of slavery. His experiences as a self-taught lawyer deeply influenced his understanding of the social and political landscapes. Lincoln's presidency, defined by his commitment to liberty and equality, steered the nation through the tumult of the Civil War. His leadership is immortalized in the Gettysburg Address and the Emancipation Proclamation, both monumental in affirming the principles of unity and freedom. Tragically, his life was cut short by assassination just as the war drew to a close, but his legacy endures as a beacon of American idealism. His younger days included an impressive wrestling career, marking him as an accomplished athlete inducted into the Wrestling Hall of Fame. His inventive spirit was also evident in his interest in technology, culminating in a patent for a device to lift boats, an invention showcasing his foresight and ingenuity. Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of resilience and vision, whose ideals of freedom and innovation continue to inspire. Andrew Johnson, a president from humble beginnings who faced unparalleled challenges in office. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina, and raised in poverty, Andrew Johnson never had formal schooling. Instead, he rose from a tailor's apprentice to a politician, driven by a dedication to unionist principles and advocacy for the poor white farmers of the South. His journey through various political roles, including governor of Tennessee and U.S. Senator, set the stage for his presidency. Johnson's time in the White House was marked by severe trials during the Reconstruction era after the Civil War. His lenient policies towards the reintegration of Southern states and his resistance to civil rights for freed slaves sparked intense conflicts with Congress. This culminated in his impeachment by the House, making him the first U.S. president to face such a trial, though he was acquitted by a single vote in the Senate. Unique in his lack of formal education, Johnson was taught to read and write by his wife, Eliza McCardle, which sharply contrasted with the typically elite world of American politics. His background as a tailor and his self-educated rise to power reflect an extraordinary path seldom seen in the annals of presidential history. Andrew Johnson, a figure of resilience and controversy, whose presidency tested the limits of American democracy. Ulysses S. Grant, a military leader turned statesman. Born in Point Pleasant, Ohio, Ulysses S. Grant rose from a modest upbringing to become a key Union general in the Civil War. His battlefield victories and leadership qualities caught the nation's attention, leading him to the presidency, despite his initial lack of interest in political office. Grant's time in the White House was defined by a fierce commitment to reconstructing the South and protecting the civil rights of the newly freed slaves. He took bold actions against the Ku Klux Klan, worked to enforce civil rights legislation, and aimed to stabilize the nation's economy after the war. Despite these achievements, his presidency was overshadowed by corruption scandals involving his cabinet and other officials, which sullied his reputation. Interesting to note, Grant's name change from Hiram Ulysses to Ulysses S. Grant was the result of a clerical error at West Point, a name he decided to keep. After his presidency, he embarked on a global tour, meeting with leaders like Queen Victoria and Emperor Meiji, significantly boosting both his and America's profile on the world stage. A president of resilience and reform, remembered for his dedication to justice and equality. Rutherford B. Hayes, a leader defined by reform and resilience. Born in Delaware, Ohio, Rutherford B. Hayes was shaped by a family that cherished education and opposed slavery. His academic pursuits at Kenyon College and Harvard Law School paved the way for a distinguished legal career. However, it was his deep-rooted anti-slavery convictions and a fervent desire for civil service reform that truly defined his trajectory, drawing him into the political realm initially as a Whig and later as a stalwart Republican. Hayes's rise to the presidency was marked by the Compromise of 1877, a pivotal yet contentious deal that resolved one of the most disputed elections in American history by ending Reconstruction. This agreement, while controversial, was instrumental in restoring public confidence in the electoral process. His administration made significant strides in civil service reform and took measures to revitalize the economy in the aftermath of the Panic of 1873. Hayes also introduced modern technology to the White House, being the first president to install a telephone with the memorable number 1. His presidency was distinctly marked by temperance, inspired by his wife Lucy, affectionately known as Lemonade Lucy, who ensured that the White House remained alcohol-free, setting a new precedent for state functions. A president whose legacy is intertwined with progress and principles, steering the nation with a steady hand through challenging times. James Garfield, a scholar and reformer. Born in a humble log cabin in Orange Township, Ohio, James Garfield's journey from a small farm to the White House was fueled by his education at Williams College, where he embraced abolitionist ideals. Transitioning from the Whig Party to become a key figure in the Republican Party, his political career was deeply rooted in a strong anti-slavery stance, beginning in the Ohio State Senate and continuing through his long tenure in the U.S. House of Representatives. Garfield's presidency, however, was dramatically brief. He served only 200 days before his life was tragically cut short by an assassin's bullet, marking one of the shortest presidencies in U.S. history. Despite this, he left a mark with his strong advocacy for civil service reform and education, striving to unify the Republican Party and promote advances in agricultural technology during his short time in office. Garfield's intellectual abilities were exceptional. He was ambidextrous, capable of writing Greek with one hand and Latin with the other, and stood as the nation's first left-handed president. His mastery of classical literature not only informed his eloquent speeches, but also enriched his visionary political ideals. A president whose promising leadership and profound intellect left an enduring legacy, despite his untimely death. Chester A. Arthur, a man of style and substance. Born in Fairfield, Vermont, and raised in upstate New York, Chester A. Arthur began his career in law after graduating from Union College. His political life took shape within New York's Republican circles, where he aligned with the Conklingite faction, known for its advocacy of the spoils system. Arthur's adept management at the New York Custom House and his commitment to the stalwart faction catapulted him into national prominence. Arthur's presidency, however, took an unexpected turn towards reform. Despite his background in machine politics, he became a proponent of civil service reform, signing the Pendleton Act, which established a merit-based system for government employment. His administration also made strides in modernizing the U.S. Navy and refining immigration laws, laying the groundwork for today's civil service. Known for his impeccable dress, Arthur was dubbed Elegant Arthur, changing his trousers multiple times a day and owning over 80 pairs. Interestingly, his presidency was shadowed by debates over his exact birthplace, with some speculating he was born in Canada, stirring eligibility controversies. A president who redefined his legacy through reform, leaving a lasting impact on American governance. Grover Cleveland, the only U.S. president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Born in Caldwell, New Jersey, and raised in Fayetteville, New York, Grover Cleveland started his career in Buffalo as a lawyer. His deep-rooted commitment to fighting corruption led him to the Democratic Party, where he quickly made a name for himself as mayor of Buffalo and later as governor of New York, gaining a reputation for honesty and efficiency. During his first term as president, Cleveland was steadfast in his commitment to fiscal responsibility and government reform. He famously vetoed numerous private pension bills for Civil War veterans, which he saw as fraudulent or excessive, and fought vigorously against patronage and wasteful spending, upholding his belief in a government that prioritized the public's interests. One of the more personal and unique aspects of his first presidency was his marriage to Frances Folsom in 1886, making him the first and only sitting president to marry in the White House. Known as Grover the Good for his integrity, Cleveland's rigorous enforcement of policies, though often controversial, solidified his legacy as a principled leader. A president of conviction and integrity, whose leadership reflected his unyielding commitment to principle over politics. Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd President of the United States, whose leadership ushered in a new era of American progress. Born into a distinguished political family in North Bend, Ohio, Benjamin Harrison was shaped by the legacy of his grandfather, President William Henry Harrison. He pursued a law career in Indiana and became deeply involved in the Republican Party, influenced by abolitionist ideals. Harrison's presidency was marked by bold initiatives. He propounded an aggressive foreign policy and played a crucial role in expanding the U.S. Navy, transforming it into a global power. Domestically, he pushed for high tariffs and enacted the Sherman Antitrust Act to combat monopolies, strengthening federal authority in economic affairs. Under his leadership, 6 new states were added to the Union, a record for any president. Harrison was also the first to bring electricity to the White House, though he famously avoided touching the light switches for fear of electrocution. His administration saw the establishment of the first U.S. forest reservations, highlighting his commitment to environmental conservation. A president of many firsts, whose tenure was characterized by significant expansion, both territorially and in terms of national policy. Grover Cleveland, the only U.S. president elected to 2 non-consecutive terms. After losing the White House in 1888, despite winning the popular vote, Grover Cleveland's unwavering commitment to honesty and fiscal conservatism struck a chord with Americans facing economic struggles in the early 1890s. His reputation for opposing corruption and patronage rekindled public support, paving the way for his unprecedented return to office in 1892. Cleveland's re-election was largely driven by voter dissatisfaction with Benjamin Harrison's economic policies, including the unpopular McKinley Tariff. The public craved Cleveland's conservative fiscal approach, which promised stability and less government excess. Yet, Cleveland's second term was fraught with challenges, including the Panic of 1893, one of the worst economic depressions in American history. His staunch support for the gold standard and his controversial decision to deploy federal troops during the Pullman strike further divided the nation and his party. Amidst this turmoil, Cleveland discreetly underwent surgery on a yacht to remove a cancerous tumor, a testament to his preference for privacy and handling sensitive matters away from the public eye. William McKinley, from humble Ohio beginnings to becoming a pivotal American president. Born in Niles, Ohio, McKinley's early life in a middle-class family shaped his values and his vision. His service in the Union Army during the Civil War sparked a lifelong commitment to public service and politics. As a staunch Republican, he championed protective tariffs and economic nationalism, which guided his political ethos. McKinley's presidency is celebrated for leading the nation during the Spanish-American War in 1898, ushering in the United States as a global power with new overseas territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. Domestically, he presided over a period of significant economic prosperity, advocating for high tariffs and the gold standard, which helped stabilize and grow the economy. A president in tune with technological advancement, McKinley was the first sitting president to ride in an automobile, showcasing the era's innovation. His 1896 campaign set new standards in political communication, utilizing the telephone extensively to reach voters, a strategy that redefined presidential campaigning. William McKinley, a leader whose presidency not only shaped international dynamics, but also embraced technological progress, marking a new era in American politics. Theodore Roosevelt, a man whose resilience transformed both a nation and himself. Born into New York City's elite, Roosevelt was a sickly child who combated his physical limits with relentless physical activity, setting the stage for a life of overcoming obstacles. His political career blossomed from assemblyman to governor, fueled by his unyielding fight against corruption and inefficiency. As president, Roosevelt's boundless vigor led to revolutionary square deal policies, advocating for fair commerce, labor rights, and consumer protection. He was a visionary in conservation, establishing national parks and monuments that preserved vast natural resources for future generations. His international diplomacy was equally robust, wielding big stick policies and mediating the end of the Russo-Japanese War, efforts that won him the Nobel Peace Prize. Roosevelt's courage was legendary. In 1912, an assassination attempt could not stop him from completing a campaign speech, even with a bullet in his chest. His declaration, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose," epitomized his indomitable spirit. Theodore Roosevelt, a president, a conservationist, and a true American icon, whose daring and determination continued to inspire. William Howard Taft, a man of law and leadership, whose service spanned the highest echelons of American governance. Born into a distinguished family in Cincinnati, Ohio, William Howard Taft was destined for public service. His father, a former Secretary of War and Attorney General, instilled in him a deep respect for the law and governance. Rising through the ranks of the judiciary, Taft's career was notably shaped by his mentorship under Theodore Roosevelt, which later influenced his presidency. As president, Taft dedicated himself to judicial reforms and vigorously continued antitrust prosecutions, reinforcing his commitment to justice and fair competition. He also pushed for international peace through arbitration treaties and oversaw the ratification of the 16th Amendment, enabling the federal income tax. Yet Taft's tenure often stood in the shadow of Roosevelt's dynamic presidency. Despite the political challenges and his rivalry with the progressive faction of his party, Taft's impact on American policy was significant. Known for his imposing physique, he famously required a larger bathtub in the White House due to his size. Beyond his presidency, Taft achieved a unique distinction by serving as Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, the only person to have held both this position and the presidency, underscoring his profound commitment to the law and the nation. William Howard Taft, a figure of justice and dedication, whose legacy in American history is as profound as his commitment to serving it. Woodrow Wilson, from the halls of academia to the corridors of power as the President of the United States. Born in Staunton, Virginia, and raised in the South, Woodrow Wilson's early life was steeped in values of progressive reform, efficiency, and ethical leadership. These principles guided him through his academic achievements to the presidency of Princeton University, a pivotal launchpad into Democratic Party politics. Wilson's tenure as U.S. President was marked by significant domestic reforms, such as the establishment of the Federal Reserve System, the Federal Trade Commission, and the enforcement of the Clayton Antitrust Act, each fostering economic stability and consumer rights. His leadership during World War I and his pioneering efforts with the League of Nations showcased his deep commitment to global peace and cooperation. Wilson was also a president of many firsts, the first with a PhD, reflecting his intellectual rigor, and the first sitting president to visit Europe, underscoring his international focus. His term took a dramatic turn when he suffered a severe stroke in 1919, after which his wife, Edith Wilson, assumed many of the presidency's routine duties, an unusual yet critical part of his administration. Woodrow Wilson, a scholar, a leader, and a visionary, whose presidency shaped both the nation and the world in ways that resonate to this day. Warren G. Harding, a man whose life journey from a small-town newspaper owner to the President of the United States was as compelling as tumultuous. Rising from the humble beginnings of rural Ohio, Warren G. Harding's command of the Marion Daily Star sharpened his political skills and showcased his determination. His charismatic and conciliatory nature quickly won over the Republican Party, catapulting him from local politics to the U.S. Senate, and eventually to the presidency. Harding's time in office, however, was overshadowed by scandals, most infamously the Teapot Dome scandal, which marred his legacy with tales of corruption and greed. Despite this, his administration pushed pro-business agendas, tax cuts, and high tariffs, striving for a return to normalcy after World War I. Harding remained a popular figure throughout his presidency, admired by many for his forward-looking policies. A pioneer in using emerging technologies, Harding was the first president to speak to the nation via radio and to bring a radio into the White House. His personal life was filled with anecdotes, including his passion for poker, rumored to have once gambled away historical White House china. Harding's sudden death in 1923 sparked a flurry of conspiracy theories, adding a layer of mystery to his already complex legacy. A president remembered for his charismatic leadership and the enigmatic end to a presidency filled with both innovation and controversy. Calvin Coolidge, a leader whose conservative principles guided America through the Roaring Twenties. From the rural town of Plymouth Notch, Vermont, Calvin Coolidge rose through the political ranks with a demeanor marked by silent resolve and an unshakable integrity. His political journey, rooted in Massachusetts as a legislator, mayor, and governor, reached the national stage during his stern handling of the Boston police strike of 1919. As president, Coolidge embraced a minimalist approach to governance, advocating for reduced government interference in the economy. His policies helped cultivate the economic prosperity of the 1920s, characterized by tax cuts, limited public spending, and less federal oversight. Known as Silent Cal for his sparse words but notable wit, Coolidge effectively used radio, the era's emerging technology, to speak directly to Americans, broadening his quiet yet resolute presence. Beyond his political acumen, Coolidge was known for his eclectic array of White House pets, including Rebecca the raccoon, adding a touch of personal charm to his presidential tenure. A president of few words, who left a legacy of fiscal conservatism and personal integrity. Herbert Hoover, from orphaned child to President of the United States, a story of resilience and leadership. Born in Iowa and raised in Oregon, Herbert Hoover overcame early adversity, using his intellect and determination to graduate from Stanford University as an engineer. His successful career in mining and business led to heroic international humanitarian efforts during World War I, where his efficient management of food aid saved countless lives and elevated his public stature. Elected president in 1928, Hoover's term was dominated by the onset of the Great Depression. Despite his attempts to stabilize the economy through government efficiency and public-private partnerships, his administration struggled to mitigate the worst economic crisis in American history. Criticized for his response, his efforts were overshadowed by the New Deal policies of his successor, Franklin D. Roosevelt. An intriguing aspect of Hoover's life was his and his wife Lou Henry's fluency in Mandarin Chinese, learned during his years in China. This skill allowed them unique privacy in the White House, speaking Mandarin when they wanted their conversations to remain confidential. Hoover also holds the distinction of being the first president born west of the Mississippi River. Herbert Hoover, a complex figure whose presidency was marked by unprecedented challenges and whose personal achievements reflect a profound legacy of service and intellectual curiosity. Franklin D. Roosevelt, a leader whose courage and innovative policies reshaped America. Born into a distinguished New York family, Franklin D. Roosevelt was shaped by his prestigious heritage and the inspiring leadership of his cousin, Theodore Roosevelt. After Harvard and Columbia Law School, he embarked on a political journey, serving as New York State Senator, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and Governor of New York, driven by a commitment to social justice and civic duty. Roosevelt's presidency is remembered for his unprecedented 4 terms, his transformative New Deal programs, and his leadership during the darkest times of the Great Depression and World War II. His policies fundamentally altered the American government's role, introducing extensive social programs, financial reforms, and public works projects, while also steering the nation through global conflict, cementing the U.S. as a predominant world power. Despite being paralyzed by polio in 1921, Roosevelt's resolve never wavered. He adeptly concealed his disability in public, symbolizing his unwavering determination. His ability to maintain a strong public image of mobility and strength became a powerful part of his political persona. Franklin D. Roosevelt, a titan of American politics, whose legacy of resilience and leadership continues to inspire generations. Harry S. Truman, a determined leader whose bold decisions shaped modern America and the world. From the small town of Lamar, Missouri, Harry Truman's early challenges, including a failed haberdashery business, steered him towards public service. Rising from a county judge in Missouri to the highest office in the land, Truman's political career was deeply influenced by his commitment to serving the public and the support of Missouri's Pendergast political machine. As president, Truman's legacy was marked by momentous decisions. His controversial order to use atomic bombs against Japan helped end World War II. He navigated the complexities of the Cold War, launching the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe, establishing NATO, and leading the nation through the Korean War. Domestically, his Fair Deal built on the New Deal, promoting civil rights and advancing social welfare. Despite never earning a college degree, Truman's life was rich with other passions, including music. Known for his piano skills, he once performed with Jack Benny, displaying his lighter side. His presidency, underscored by the motto, "The buck stops here," highlighted his commitment to accountability. Harry S. Truman, a president of conviction, whose leadership left an indelible mark on America's mid-20th century tapestry. Dwight D. Eisenhower, from Kansas boy to President of the United States, whose leadership was formed on the front lines of history. Born in Denison, Texas, and raised in Abilene, Kansas, Dwight D. Eisenhower rose from humble beginnings to become a 5-star general and the supreme commander of the Allied Expeditionary Forces during World War II. His leadership during the D-Day invasion cemented his status as a national hero, ultimately paving his way to the presidency, where he embraced moderate bipartisan policies. During his presidency, Eisenhower's impact was profound both at home and abroad. He took decisive actions against communism, negotiated an end to the Korean War, and promoted peaceful uses of atomic energy with his Atoms for Peace initiative. Domestically, he expanded Social Security, launched the interstate highway system, and enforced desegregation during the Little Rock crisis, demonstrating his commitment to civil rights and infrastructure. An avid golfer, Eisenhower was the first president to install a putting green at the White House. He was also the first to serve under the 22nd Amendment's term limits. Known for his foresight, Eisenhower had a secret plan for presidential succession in case of a health crisis, ensuring the continuity of government leadership. Dwight D. Eisenhower, a leader whose strategic vision and dedication to duty left a lasting legacy on both the nation and the world stage. John F. Kennedy, a leader whose vision and charisma redefined American politics. Born into the politically storied Kennedy family in Brookline, Massachusetts, John F. Kennedy's path was shaped by his elite education at Harvard and valiant service as a naval officer during World War II. These experiences fueled his passion for public service, leading to his rise from the U.S. House to the Senate, propelled by his family's strong political ties and his own magnetic charm. Kennedy's presidency was marked by high stakes and visionary policies. His adept handling of the Cuban Missile Crisis averted nuclear disaster, showcasing his diplomatic prowess. Domestically, Kennedy was a fervent advocate for civil rights and launched ambitious initiatives like the Peace Corps and the mission to land a man on the moon, encapsulating his forward-thinking agenda. Though his time in office was tragically brief, Kennedy's impact was profound, inspiring Americans with his call to service and idealism. His contributions to literature with Profiles in Courage, for which he won a Pulitzer Prize, and his pioneering use of televised press conferences further cemented his legacy as a president committed to both courage and communication. John F. Kennedy, a president of progress and promise, whose legacy of leadership and inspiration continues to influence the world. Lyndon B. Johnson, a leader whose roots in rural Texas shaped his vision for America. From his early days as a teacher to his rise as a master of legislative tactics, Lyndon B. Johnson's journey through the political landscape was marked by his determination and deep-seated democratic values. Experiencing poverty and discrimination firsthand influenced his drive to transform society. During his presidency, Johnson launched the ambitious Great Society programs, which aimed to eliminate poverty and racial injustice. Landmark laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the creation of Medicare and Medicaid sought to forge a fairer nation. Yet, his tenure was deeply affected by the Vietnam War, a conflict that overshadowed his domestic achievements and divided the nation. Known for his unorthodox leadership style, Johnson's Johnson treatment, a persuasive tactic of intense close-up interaction, showcased his unique approach to politics. This, combined with his habit of conducting meetings in unconventional settings, even during haircuts or in the bathroom, highlighted a presidency that was anything but ordinary. Lyndon B. Johnson, a president of grand ambitions and profound contradictions, whose legacy of social reform and political prowess continues to resonate. Richard Nixon, from his humble beginnings in California to his tumultuous presidency. Rising from a Quaker family in Yorba Linda, California, Richard Nixon's keen intellect propelled him through Whittier College and Duke University Law School. His political career, marked by a strong anti-communist stance, saw him ascend from the House of Representatives to the Senate and then to the vice presidency under Dwight D. Eisenhower. As president, Nixon achieved significant foreign policy successes, including détente with the Soviet Union and the historic opening to China. Yet, his presidency was overshadowed by the Watergate scandal, leading to his unprecedented resignation in 1974. Despite these controversies, Nixon also played a pivotal role in environmental protection, establishing the EPA. Known for his reserved public image, Nixon's private passion for music revealed a different facet of his character. An accomplished musician, he played 5 instruments and even composed a piece performed at the Grand Ole Opry, showing a softer side seldom seen by the public. Richard Nixon, a president remembered for both his diplomatic triumphs and profound challenges. Gerald Ford, a leader whose unexpected journey to the presidency symbolized stability and integrity during one of America's most turbulent times. Born in Omaha, Nebraska, and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Gerald Ford excelled in both academics and athletics, leading him to the University of Michigan and later, Yale Law School. His service in the U.S. Navy during World War II fueled his commitment to public service, setting the stage for over 25 years in Congress and his rise to House Minority Leader. Ford's presidency began uniquely, as he was the first to be appointed vice president under the 25th Amendment, later ascending to the presidency after Nixon's resignation. His term was defined by his efforts to mend a nation fractured by the Watergate scandal, including a controversial presidential pardon of Nixon intended to close a divisive chapter in American politics. Despite facing economic challenges like inflation and recession, Ford's resolve never wavered. Remarkably, Ford remains the only U.S. president who was neither elected vice president nor president. Beyond his political life, Ford's athletic legacy as a star football player for the University of Michigan, where he won 2 national championships, reflects his leadership and team spirit. A president who bridged gaps in American politics with calm and courage, leaving a legacy of healing and resilience. Jimmy Carter, a president whose deep-rooted values and visionary leadership transcended the ordinary. From the small town of Plains, Georgia, Jimmy Carter rose from a naval officer and peanut farmer to the highest office in the land. His commitment to civil rights and social justice fueled his political ascent from state senator to governor of Georgia, and ultimately to the presidency, representing the Democratic Party with a strong moral compass. As president, Carter became a champion of human rights and a peacemaker, brokering the Camp David Accords between Israel and Egypt, a monumental step towards peace in the Middle East. Despite facing domestic hurdles like inflation and an energy crisis, his administration made significant strides in energy conservation and environmental protection, laying foundations that continue to influence policy today. Among the more unique aspects of Carter's life is his reported UFO sighting in 1969, showcasing his openness to the unexplained. Additionally, Carter's distinction as the first U.S. president born in a hospital highlights a notable shift in societal norms and medical advancements of his time. Jimmy Carter, a leader whose presidency was as multifaceted as it was impactful, leaving a legacy of dignity and sustainability for future generations. Ronald Reagan, from Hollywood to the White House, a story of leadership and transformation. Born in Tampico, Illinois, Ronald Reagan's early career as a sports broadcaster and actor laid the foundation for his charismatic leadership. His seamless transition from the silver screen to the governor's mansion in California set the stage for his later ascent to the presidency, showcasing his adaptability and determination. As president, Reagan left a profound impact on both domestic and international stages. His administration implemented sweeping tax cuts, escalated military spending, and promoted deregulation, shaping the economic landscape of the 1980s. On the global front, his firm stance against the Soviet Union and pivotal demand, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, played a significant role in the culmination of the Cold War. Reagan's presidency was marked by unique milestones. At 69, he was the oldest person elected to the office at that time and the first divorced president. His resilience was notably demonstrated when he survived an assassination attempt early in his first term, an event that deeply influenced his later advocacy for gun control and his enduring popularity among Americans. Ronald Reagan, a president whose legacy of strong leadership and personal courage continues to inspire and shape America's future. George H.W. Bush, a man of service and leadership, whose presidency and family legacy have profoundly shaped American history. Born into a family of privilege in Massachusetts and raised in Connecticut, George H.W. Bush was a dedicated family man and a naval hero of World War II. After Yale, he ventured into the Texas oil industry, setting the stage for his extensive political career. His roles ranged from U.S. congressman to CIA director to vice president under Ronald Reagan, preparing him for the highest office. Bush's tenure was marked by strategic diplomacy and significant foreign policy successes, most notably leading a global coalition in the Gulf War and navigating the complex post-Cold War international landscape. However, domestically, his presidency faced challenges, including an economic recession and a controversial tax increase that contradicted his staunch campaign promise. Beyond politics, Bush was known for his adventurous spirit, celebrated by skydiving on milestone birthdays well into his 90s. His love for speedboats and fishing illustrated his zest for life. A significant part of his legacy is his family's political dynasty, with his father, Prescott, as a U.S. Senator and his son, George W. Bush, also serving as president. George H.W. Bush, a president whose commitment to service, family, and country leaves an enduring imprint on the fabric of American life. William J. Clinton, whose early experiences and remarkable intellect set the stage for his transformative presidency. Raised in Hope and Hot Springs, Arkansas, Bill Clinton's academic prowess and a defining encounter with President Kennedy ignited his passion for public service. From Georgetown University to a Rhodes Scholarship at Oxford and a law degree from Yale, Clinton's educational path was marked by excellence and ambition. As Arkansas's Attorney General and Governor, he honed the skills that would later define his presidency. Clinton's tenure in the Oval Office was distinguished by unprecedented economic growth, featuring the longest peacetime expansion in U.S. history. His pivotal economic policies like NAFTA and the 1993 Budget Act not only spurred growth, but also achieved a federal budget surplus. His legislative efforts, including the Family and Medical Leave Act and major welfare reforms, aimed to enhance the welfare of American families. Beyond economics, Clinton played a key role in brokering peace in Northern Ireland and the Balkans. Despite significant achievements, his presidency was challenged by personal scandals and impeachment proceedings, from which he was ultimately acquitted. Post-presidency, Clinton embraced a vegan lifestyle for health reasons. His charisma and relatability were epitomized by his memorable saxophone performance on the Arsenio Hall show, which captured the nation's youth. A president of prosperity and controversy, whose legacy is as diverse as his life's journey. George W. Bush, from Texas roots to the global stage of the White House. Born in New Haven, Connecticut, but truly a son of Texas, George W. Bush grew up surrounded by the influence of a storied political family. After studying at Yale and Harvard Business School, he navigated the oil industry and sports management before following in the footsteps of his father, George H.W. Bush, by entering politics as the governor of Texas. His presidency was defined by unprecedented challenges. Following the tragic events of September 11, 2001, Bush led the nation into the war on terror, including conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. Domestically, his tenure saw the enactment of the No Child Left Behind Act, expansions in Medicare, and responses to the looming financial crisis, all of which sparked deep political discourse and shaped his legacy. Beyond politics, Bush's life took a creative turn as he discovered a passion for painting, creating art that captures world leaders and honors military veterans, reflecting his ongoing engagement with global and personal histories. Notably athletic, he's also the only U.S. president to have run a marathon, showcasing his dedication to personal fitness. George W. Bush, a president of resilience and contrasts, whose journey from the Oval Office to the canvas is as compelling as his time in leadership. Barack Obama, from his multicultural upbringing to his transformative years in the White House. Born in Honolulu, Hawaii, Barack Obama's early life was a rich tapestry of diverse cultures, spanning from Hawaii to Indonesia. His academic brilliance shone through at Columbia University and Harvard Law School, where he became the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review. His journey from community organizing in Chicago to the Illinois and U.S. Senate was fueled by a passion for public service and social justice. As president, Obama's tenure was marked by landmark achievements. The Affordable Care Act expanded health coverage to millions. The Dodd-Frank Act reformed financial sector regulations, and his decision to end military involvement in Iraq and lead the mission that eliminated Osama bin Laden defined his foreign policy. His leadership in securing the Paris Agreement underscored his dedication to combating climate change. Awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009 for his extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy, Obama's global influence was recognized early in his presidency. An avid basketball player, he also used the sport to maintain connections, illustrating his down-to-earth approach to leadership and diplomacy. Barack Obama, a leader whose presidency was as historic as it was impactful, leaving a legacy of progress and hope for future generations. Donald Trump, from business mogul and TV personality to the 45th President of the United States. Born and raised in Queens, New York, Donald Trump's journey through real estate and entertainment, notably as the host of The Apprentice, set the stage for a dramatic shift into politics. Running on the promise to make America great again, Trump's outsider appeal and stark departure from traditional political norms captivated a broad segment of the electorate, catapulting him into the White House. Trump's presidency was marked by a direct and often contentious use of social media, through which he engaged the public on policies and presidential decrees. His administration pushed through substantial tax cuts, enacted stringent immigration restrictions, and made attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act. The management of the COVID-19 pandemic and significant foreign policy agreements like the Abraham Accords sparked further debate. His presidency, further polarized by 2 impeachments followed by acquittals, highlighted the divisive political climate. A president of many firsts, Trump was the only U.S. commander-in-chief without prior government or military service. Known for his unique rhetoric and heavy Twitter use, his platform became a hallmark of his presidency until he was banned for inciting violence and spreading misinformation. His passion for golf is evident in his ownership of courses around the globe, blending his personal interests with his professional endeavors. Donald Trump, a figure who reshaped the boundaries of presidential conduct and left a lasting, complex legacy on American politics. Joseph R. Biden Jr., from the humble beginnings in Scranton to his journey to the highest office in the land. Born into a working-class family in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden's early exposure to civil rights ignited a lifelong passion for public service. This drive led him to the Newcastle County Council and then to the U.S. Senate at just 29 years old, marking the start of an illustrious 36-year Senate career and later vice presidency under Barack Obama. As president, Biden has prioritized tackling the COVID-19 pandemic through extensive vaccine distribution and economic initiatives aimed at stimulating recovery. His administration is also vigorously addressing climate change, racial equity, and healthcare reform, striving to mend international alliances and championing multilateralism and diplomacy. Known for his love of ice cream, Biden's simple pleasure connects him with people on a personal level during campaign trails and public appearances. At 78, he became the oldest person elected president, embodying resilience and a continued dedication to public service. An avid car enthusiast, Biden's 1967 Corvette Stingray showcases his appreciation for classic American craftsmanship, adding a touch of relatability to his public persona. A president defined by a lifetime of service, his leadership mirrors his commitment to bring about positive change and unity.